Miguel stood backstage, his hands trembling around the microphone that had seen better days. The roar of the audience beyond the curtain felt distant, muffled by the pounding of his heart. He wasn't just nervous, he was terrified. Thousands of miles away from home, standing on one of the biggest stages in the world, he could almost hear his father's voice echoing in his mind, the same voice that once sang Elvis songs with him under a rusted roof back in Manila. "Sing with your heart, son," his father used to say. "Even the stars will listen." But his father wasn't there anymore. He had passed away 2 years earlier, leaving behind memories, a dream, and a promise Miguel had sworn to keep. The announcer's voice boomed, "Next up, from the Philippines, Miguel Santos." The bright lights hit him as he stepped onto the stage. The crowd looked expectantly. The judges' faces were unreadable, and Simon Cowell's sharp gaze made his knees weak. He swallowed hard. When the music started, Elvis Presley's "Can't Help Falling in Love," the fear melted away. He closed his eyes and began to sing. His voice, raw yet tender, carried the weight of love and loss. The crowd grew still, the world seemed to fade, and for a few magical moments, it was just him and his father again, singing together like they used to. When the final note lingered in the air, the silence that followed felt eternal. Then came the applause, a tidal wave of cheers, tears, and awe. Simon's eyes glistened as he whispered, "That was extraordinary." Miguel's knees gave out, tears falling freely as the golden confetti began to rain down. He looked up, whispering softly through trembling lips, "This one's for you, Papa." The moment the first note escaped Miguel's lips, the entire auditorium fell silent. It wasn't just singing, it was storytelling through sound. His voice carried a trembling sincerity that made people forget where they were. Every lyric of "Can't Help Falling in Love" seemed to reach into the soul, wrapping around hearts with invisible threads of emotion. Even Simon Cowell, known for his cold composure, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing, not with criticism, but disbelief. The boy's tone wasn't polished or trained to perfection, but it was pure, honest, and full of pain that only real life could teach. As Miguel sang, he stopped being a contestant, he became a vessel of love, memory, and longing. The melody echoed like a whisper from another time, carrying the ghost of his father's laughter, the sound of rain hitting tin rooftops, the smell of home. Then something magical happened, people in the audience began to cry. Strangers held their breath, some clasped hands, others simply stared with tears streaming down their faces. There was no flashing light, no dramatic backdrop, just Miguel and his voice, trembling yet strong. His accent, his vulnerability, his courage, they all blended into something deeply human. Halfway through the song, his voice cracked slightly, but instead of faltering, it made the performance even more real. The audience could feel his father's spirit through every note. When he reached the final line, he opened his eyes and looked toward the heavens, as if singing directly to him. The hall erupted with applause, people standing in unison. For that brief, golden moment, Miguel wasn't just a Filipino singer on stage, he was every dreamer who ever dared to believe, every child who ever sang for someone they loved and lost. As Miguel's voice floated across the hall, his mind drifted into memories that played like a film behind his closed eyes. He was no longer on the America's Got Talent stage, he was back in the narrow streets of Manila, a barefoot boy singing with his father as the evening sun dipped low. His father's old guitar, patched with tape, strummed softly as their voices blended perfectly in harmony. People would stop and listen, dropping a few coins into a tin can. "One day, son," his father would say with a smile that carried hope and hunger, "your voice will take us to a better life." But life hadn't been kind. When his father fell ill, Miguel sang on the same street corners alone, using the little money he earned to buy medicine that never worked enough. The day his father took his last breath, Miguel held his hand and promised, through tears, that he would keep singing until the world heard him. That promise brought him here, to this stage, to this moment. As the spotlight bathed him in gold, the memories felt alive. The warmth of his father's hand, the sound of laughter echoing through the humid air, the dream they built together, it all came rushing back. His throat tightened, but he didn't stop singing. Each note became a prayer, each word a bridge between past and present. The crowd couldn't see the story flashing in his mind, but they could feel it in his trembling voice. When he opened his eyes again, tears glistened under the lights. It wasn't just a performance anymore, it was a farewell, a tribute, and a promise kept. As the final note faded into silence, Miguel stood frozen, breathless, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it echo in his ears. For a second, no one moved, no clapping, no cheering, just a stunned stillness that filled the entire auditorium. Then, as if the world exhaled all at once, the crowd erupted. People rose to their feet, their applause rolling like thunder. Some were crying openly, others cheering his name. Miguel blinked, dazed, as tears blurred the sea of faces before him. Simon Cowell, who had sat stone-faced through countless auditions, slowly stood up. His usual smirk was gone. Instead, there was something no one had ever seen before, gentle disbelief. He leaned into the microphone and said, his voice unusually soft, "Miguel, I've heard thousands of singers, but very few who can make the world stop for 3 minutes. That was pure soul. Elvis would be proud." Miguel's lips trembled as emotion overwhelmed him. He tried to speak, but no words came out, just tears and a smile that said everything. The other judges were already on their feet. Heidi wiped her eyes. Sophia clapped her hands over her mouth, whispering, "That was beautiful." And then it happened, the golden buzzer. The hall exploded with a golden rain of confetti, shimmering in the spotlight as the crowd cheered louder than ever. Miguel fell to his knees, sobbing, hands over his face. The dream he had shared with his father, the years of hardship, the endless nights singing alone, it had all led to this one moment of triumph. As he lifted his face to the glowing lights, the gold dust clinging to his tears, it felt as if heaven itself was applauding him. As the golden confetti swirled around him like a gentle storm, Miguel stood trembling in the middle of the stage, completely overwhelmed. The noise of the cheering crowd faded into a soft hum, drowned out by the rush of emotion flooding his heart. He looked up toward the ceiling, tears streaking down his face, whispering so quietly that only he could hear, "This one's for you, Papa." In that moment, the lights, the fame, the cameras, none of it mattered. What mattered was the promise he had kept, the dream his father had planted that had finally blossomed in front of the world. Simon's words still echoed in his mind, Elvis would be proud. But Miguel knew his father would be prouder. He could almost see him there, smiling from the edge of the stage, nodding like he used to when Miguel hit the perfect note. A warm calm washed over him, as if the universe itself had paused to honor their bond. As Miguel walked off the stage, the judges still applauding, crew members and contestants stopped to hug him. One of them whispered, "You didn't just sing, you made us feel." Outside, under the soft glow of the marquee lights, Miguel pulled out a tiny photograph of his father from his pocket and smiled through his tears. The night air smelled like rain and new beginnings. He realized that success wasn't about fame or fortune, it was about love, legacy, and never giving up on what someone once believed in you. With a deep breath, he looked up at the sky and whispered, "We made it, Papa." And for a fleeting second, he could swear he felt a warm hand on his shoulder and a familiar voice saying, "I told you the stars would listen."